All right, it says I'm live. I guess live for now until I buffer, right? Hopefully they don't buffer me too much tonight, guys. Tonight's not going to be a political talk. Just wanted to kind of show you guys a few guns and talk about guns for maybe an hour or so. And then I'm going to head up to Applebee's while they're still open for their half-off apps. I don't know if you guys have Applebee's in your area, but after 10 o'clock, most of their apps are half off. So I'll just sit down to like 3 apps and just sit there and relax and pig out. So after working my butt off for about, oh geez, I was up about 26 hours yesterday. I need a good meal, so I'm not going to stay on too long, but yeah, figure we just talk about guns for a little bit tonight and see what's going on, you know. Let's see here. Let's see who's here today. Mateo 1371, how's it going, man? SwitchPod, what's up? We've got Warsaw Patriot. How's it going? Let's see. I know I saw a couple other people sneak in here. Road Scholars here. How's it going, man? We have another Warsaw Patriot. Last but certainly not least, Zeke Shoots is here. Speaking of this Zeke Shoots guy, I know most of you already are. That's how most of you find out me. But if you're not familiar with Zeke Shoots, go check his channel out. He's all over the place. So he's on YouTube. He's on Gunstreamer. He's got a fan page on the Full 30 forums, which I'd like to see you guys over there too. So make sure we can get more of our group over to Full 30, guys. Zeke also has a Full 30 video channel too. I know he's on YouTube, etc. But yeah, just introduce you guys to Zeke Shoots. You know, he's a good friend of mine, and he's doing a lot for the community. And he's kind of the one that, you know, inspired me and got me going in this little YouTube thing. So, and just to give you guys a little teaser, tomorrow night, Zeke is going to do his live stream on the Polish AK. So what I thought I'd do tonight is talk about some other Polish guns, like some pistols and whatnot. So this is kind of a little introductory stream for Zeke's stream tomorrow night. Bastard's here. What's up, man? Glad to see you here too. I think that's about everybody. All right. Yeah, so these Polish guns are pretty cool, guys. I mean, I think so at least. And I had a viewer, you know, request this video and wanted me to show some more Polish guns. So I thought, hey, why not? So as you guys have been familiar with, I've been showing this gun quite a bit because I'm kind of excited about it. I've got my PM-63 rack, right? And this was a Polish, you know, submachine gun machine pistol that was, I wouldn't want to say widely used, but, you know, they used these quite a bit. These were kind of like for tank crews and auxiliary crews and whatnot. People that kind of needed to keep their hands free while they were working. They made a nice holster for the side. And speaking of holsters, I stopped by Centerfire Systems the other day. And I picked up a couple more accessories because this is what you guys got to do when you're into milsurp stuff. When it comes in the country, you buy it now, whether it's a gun or a holster or a little pouch. Buy it when it's available, because some of the stupidest stuff over the years, you know, it was like $1 at one time or $10, and then you go a few years later and kind of put it off, and the primary market dries up on that gun. You can get screwed. I mean, I've seen like little magazines that used to be $15 going for $100 nowadays for some of these milsurps, and just little pouches that used to be $5 nowadays are like 20, 30, or $50. So if you're in the milsurps and you want either a gun or any accessories, I'm going to say this one more time, buy it as soon as you can. If you don't have the money and you have to put it off for that reason, that's fine. But you know, just you got to prioritize these milsurps. It's just a game you have to play. Buy them while you can, buy them cheap, and you know the deal. So anyways, they had some pretty cheap Polish PM-63 accessories on Centerfire. Here's another holster that I bought. And this looks just like the holster that came in the kit. You know, here's the funny part. The holster that came with the gun itself was so pristine and brand new, I thought it was kind of a shame to use it. I kind of wanted to just keep it up nice and brand new. So I said, well, these holsters are like $9 or something at Centerfire. I'm going to buy another one that I'm sure is going to be a little used, and I'll just use that for my range holster, and then I'll keep a nice brand new one. Well, I guess I'm going to have to use one of these eventually, guys, because look, I just got another brand new, completely unissued, no creases in the leather, Same thing as the last one. I mean, literally 100% unissued and probably never actually had a firearm in it holster. So, yeah, $9. This is a pretty cool holster, period. I think there's some other uses for this too. So, if you guys need one of these for another project or another gun you have, you might want to look at it. You know, it's real nice, sturdy canvas material with genuine leather retention straps. So, yeah, there you go. Got that little holster. Also, what I wanted that I did not have yet is one of these neat ammo pouches. Or magazine pouches, I should say. Magazine, cleaning kit, whatnot. Now, this did not come with the gun. And my parts kit that I bought also did not have it. So I was really kind of wanting one of these. And this was, I think, only $7, $6.99. This is a pretty neat pouch, too, for other stuff, guys. It's got the leather strap with the metal stud keeper here to let you access the main portion of the pouch. So this holds 3 of the 25 round mags. Those will go right in here. Okay, I'll show you guys real quick. If you remember from the last time I talked about the PM-63 rack, standard loadout and issue was 3 of these, 325 rounders, and those would go in your pouch like so. And then let me grab my 15 round here. And then they would issue one 15 round flush fit mag, and that would be your mag that would normally be carried in the gun, right? And the reason why is this is flush fit, and it allows it to still fit into the holster. So with this flush fit mag, we can put it in the holster. And yes, the 25 rounds obviously still going to fit, but that completely changes the platform of the gun. So if you're wearing it on your hip, or a lot of times I've seen them wear it on their breast like this, you know, that could really inhibit your motion if you have a mag sticking all the way out to here, right? So yeah, this was the standard loadout, basically. 1 15-round mag in the gun. Not chambered, by the way. You normally don't keep a submachine gun, open bolt rather, submachine gun with a round in the pipe, because the manual of arms on these would be that you bring the slide back, your mag's loaded, and then when it won't do it on this one, obviously, because it has a disconnector and it's a hammer fire. But normally what would happen is with a full mag, it would just simply go forward by pulling the trigger. So there you go. The slide slid forward that time because I didn't put the slide stop on. I'll put the slide stop on this time. You guys can see what I'm talking about. So you would drop, you know, put in a full mag, pretend the mag's in there right now, and it would actually be the action of pulling the trigger that would send the slide home with a fixed firing pin and start firing rounds till you let up. So yeah, you would have been, the soldier would have been issued with one of these, the gun itself, a sling, which I'll get to that in 1 second, why I'm not showing you the sling, holster, and this pouch, which accommodates 325 round mags. And then we have another compartment over here, which is kind of neat, that has its own separate retention, so you can get to your mags and still keep this portion of the pouch, you know, closed and secured. And this is where you put your cleaning kit. And there's also kind of attached to a lanyard, a little soft pouch here, which maybe I should have done my homework a little more. This was kind of an impromptu stream, guys, and like all my streams, completely unscripted. So I'm not exactly sure which component would go in here, but it's just a soft little, you know, cotton type pouch that's hooked to a lanyard here. And it doesn't have any type of closure on it. It just kind of stays open. So maybe one of y'all knows what this is. And your cleaning kit with cleaning rod fits perfect in here. And this is kind of the cool thing about Poland. You know, Poland always just kind of tidies up everything and crosses their T's, dots their I's. I mean, you guys know what I mean if you own any Polish stuff. They just kind of think everything through. And everything I've bought from Poland, you know, from Mosin Nagant to pistols to even little pouches, it's always like really, really high quality stuff. So you're not going to be able to see it, but down inside of this pouch, there's 2 little leather keepers here. One of them, and they're down about, you know, here, about 1.5 inches in. There's a little leather loop that's sewn in here, and that's going to be the perfect spot to put your cleaning rod. Of course, this is like a brand new unissued pouch too. It's a little stiff right now, but There's a little compartment in here. You can actually see the stitching right here. They stitched in a little leather loop where it'll hold this perfectly in place. And this is your cleaning rod and your multi-tool. Comes with a flathead screwdriver, a little U-shape tool, and then something that kind of looks like a bottle opener, but I'm sure it wasn't for opening bottles. But you could use it like that if you wanted to. So that has its own little compartment. And then this is, if you guys have been into Polish guns, this is a really, really common cleaning kit, guys. This classic black tube. I mean, the size of the bore brush and the jag changes throughout guns. But basically, this little black bottle, they issued this with their AKs, their milled AKs, their stamped AKs, even all the way up into the Tantal and even the Beryl. They just kept issuing this. So you can literally probably find dozens of Polish guns where this was the standard issue. And it's just kind of a little, you know, screw off type little bottle. They call it an oil bottle. You could use it for oil. What I heard a lot of people did too is they'd carry a separate little bottle for oil, and they'd actually use this little bottle to put their accessories in too. So you could use it for different things. In this case, on this particular gun, this jag's a little long. But I believe on some of them, like the AKs, I've seen people put them in there. But this is basically your oil bottle or whatnot. And there's also, again, my camera's not going to be able to pick it up, guys, but also on the inside of this pouch, there's a couple smaller little leather straps to actually accommodate this jag right here. Just put it right in this little loop. So, yeah. So we're going to show you guys this. If you have a PM-63 rack, this is a must buy. And even if you don't, you still might like this pouch for $7. Oh, let me check the chat real quick, guys. Okay, Brastard. Yep, I said hi to you earlier. Albert's here. What's up, man? Albert's my buddy. Glad to see you here, man. I mean, all you guys are my buddies, but I like Albert more than the rest of you, so deal with it. Let's see. SwitchPod's hoping to get some measurements this weekend. What are the measurements going to be of? I'm having a little brain fart here. I'm sure it's something we've been talking about. Let's see here. All right, cool. You guys are mainly chatting amongst yourselves. That's cool. Looks like you guys kind of like these accessories. I know accessories are kind of boring, but I don't know. Tonight's just kind of a little bit of a chill, laid-back episode where I just wanted to kind of BS with you guys for a minute, you know? All right, now in like 30 seconds flat, I managed to film my whole test. So let me get some of this stuff packed up here real quick, guys, get it out of my way. I'm just working off of a small little computer desk here. By the time you put my keyboard down, I've got about, you know, that much space by that much space right in front of me here to work with. Okay, so we've been talking about this quite a bit. Well, there's another more famous Polish pistol. I think it's a little more, maybe not as legendary and like as cool famous, but certainly more common Polish pistol that was used right around the same time as the rack. It actually kind of came out before the rack, but then they kept making it all the way through into the same type of time period. Well, I don't know if it came out first. Let's say they came out around the same time, actually. And that would be the Polish P-64. Now, these have been commonly available on the market in recent years. This one's in pretty good shape. You know, this is kind of one that I set aside as a shooter grade. It's got a little bit of holster wear just on the high edges, a teeny bit. I wouldn't call this an unissued or anything like that, but this one's in pretty good shape. So this is a Polish P-64. What this basically is I guess, you know, if you don't want to be too technical, you could call this a Makarov. I mean, it kind of sort of, I mean, there's only a couple true Makarovs, right? But I get what people mean when they call it a Makarov, because basically any small little gun like this that's chambered in the 9x18 Makarov is kind of a Makarov. So you'll see right here, this is a Circle 11 made in that same Circle 11 Planet Radom. Now in this case, it wouldn't be considered an FB Radom gun. This would be a Luxnick Radom. So if you're familiar with the Radom factory, and I don't remember all the dates, guys, but in the beginning, it was FB Radom, right? And then it was Luxnick Radom. A company or a group by the name of Luxnick purchased the factory and ran it for a couple decades, from what I recall. And so at this point in time, it's still Circle 11. It's still the same Radom plant, but this would actually be properly a Luxnick Radom rather than an FB Radom. Which you're going to find most of these milsurps that we're familiar with are actually Luxnick Radom guns, like a lot of the Circle 11 AKs and whatnot. If you have like a Vez, like a 35, now that's going to be an FB Radom gun. Those will say FB right on the grips. So again, if you go back really far, it's FB. Then it was Luxnick. Now it's FB again in modern day times. But yeah, these are really, really nice pistols here, guys. As far as the fit and finish, I mean, perfectly just machined, just high polish everywhere. Not a burr on this gun. I mean, they did such a good job with these. Nice, deep, rich bluing. And this is what I was talking about when I was kind of complaining to you guys about the PM-63 rack, right? The PM-63 rack, made in the same factory, right around the same time. In fact, these guns are made... Okay, here's a perfect example. Same exact year. So, as you saw earlier, my Circle 11 P-64 was made in... I don't know why it's not wanting to focus when it just did, guys. Made in 1971. And coincidentally, the PM-63 also made in 1971. So, these guns were made in the same year in the same factory. That's why I think they're kind of cool to show at the same time. This gun originally, okay, when it left the factory, when it was used, had the same high polish bluing as this P-64. And you can probably see right away here the difference. It's pretty obvious. That high luster shiny blue versus this matte, you know, parkerizing phosphate type finish. So that's what I meant, guys. So it's not that I don't like this gun or anything like that. I really like it. It's just it would have been perfect if it could have been like, you know, the cool gun, but also had this really, really pretty blue finishing on here like this. Because that's kind of what Poland's known for. And in this era. Now, as time went on with their AKs and other guns, they kind of switched over to a paint. And there's a lot of black painted guns too. But when you're talking, you know, 50s, 60s, even 70s, a Polish gun, in my opinion, should look like this. That's kind of the cool thing about them. And it's kind of funny because if you notice here, it says 9mm on it, right? Well, that's because in this era here, it was just assumed that it was 9x18. They didn't feel the need. Just like a lot of us with our guns, we'll just say, well, hey, I have a 9mm Beretta 92 or a 9mm Glock 17. You don't normally say, hey, I have a 9x19 Glock, or I have a 9mm Parabellum or 9mm Luger or 9mm NATO. You just say 9mm. So if you put yourself back into the Warsaw Pact era, you know, being a combat country, well, of course, if it said 9mm, they were kind of just assuming that's what it was. If they would have chambered a gun in 9mm Luger at the time, they would have actually gone through the effort to put 9mm Luger on it, or they would have put 9x19 on it. So 9mm, as we know it today, would have been the exception, not the rule. And these are a 9x18. What's interesting about a 9x18 is, you know, at first you think it's smaller because, you know, you've got a millimeter smaller on the one dimension. And that's true, but the bullet itself, the actual projectile, is actually slightly larger on a 9mm Makarov. So you actually wouldn't even be able to properly chamber a 9mm Makarov round into a 9mm Luger Parabellum, right? So just a little tidbit there for you guys. A lot of people just assume it's smaller. Not really. Whereas a 380, otherwise known as a 9mm Kurz, 9x17 rather, those actually still use the same size bullet. So you could chamber a 380 into most 9s and fire it with probably extraction problems, most likely. There's been videos where people have done it. This, not the same thing. It's actually a completely different bullet design altogether, different profile and everything, right? So let me see where you guys are at here. Yeah, the P-64s, like Albert's saying, have been pretty reasonable. Just recently, Classic finally sold out of them, but up until then, these were like, they must have been having a hard time getting rid of these because they were like $239, then they were $199, and I even saw a couple sales right around Christmas and all that, Black Friday, whatnot. But I think they had these down to about 170 or 80 bucks, which is just a steal. I mean, you couldn't possibly even think about making a gun in this day and age for that much. I mean, especially with the high level of fit and finish. I mean, if you literally took all this into account and put, you know, modern manufacturing practices into this gun. Now, I'm not saying you would want this. I wouldn't spend that much for it, but this could be like $1,000 gun. If you look at some of these really nice 1911s, they don't have anything over on this as far as the actual fit and finish, machine time, bluing, etc. So these are kind of little gems in my opinion. And what I really like about this gun is the way they import marked it. So you've been looking at it the whole time. You can't even tell it's an import. So you go all the way underneath here, and you can see the maker's mark in a pretty discreet place. And for the American market, and also to be compliant with federal law, they do specify more under here. So it says Luxnick, Poland, 9x18, and then the importer's name, city, and state. So it does have engraved into it 9x18 so that it doesn't confuse anybody here on the American market who may not be familiar with the 9x19. And it's just such a small engraving, it's hard for my camera to really get it, guys, but hey. Yeah. Let's see if you guys, I have a feeling most of you is probably familiar with the P-64, right? It surprised me, in other words, if this is anyone's first time seeing one of these. Let's see here. Yep, you guys were talking about the whole 9mm thing. Warsaw was, yep. It's a 9mm Makarov, as we would call it in this country. And that's fine, guys. Look, if I wanted to be like, you know, a professor right now, I could sit there and give you guys all the exact proper names. I don't care. We're just trying to have fun right now. I'm not an educator. You can call this a Makarov if you want. You could call this a PPK clone if you want. Really, it's a P-64. It's a little different than both, but we can call it a Makarov. I'm fine with that. And if you don't know how to pronounce Makarov, just pronounce it Makarov. Because yes, in Russia, they pronounce it a different way, but you know what? I usually just use the American pronunciations, right? Yeah. All right, looks like we got Masters of the Kalashnikov. How's it going? Welcome. And we got the Tyven show here. You guys probably know Tyven. He's a lot bigger than I am, actually. He's the one, actually, that's one of the main ones with that's organizing that that like YouTuber media event down in Ohio. So if you want to throw that out there, Tyven, Creator Summit it's called. Richard Hughes was just telling me about it like 2 weeks ago on my stream. So this is the Tyven show, you know, Tyven that's working with Richard Hughes, and I believe Tyven's kind of in charge of the whole project. So you can go to creatorsummit.us. Any of you that's in this area, get on there. There's some preliminary qualifications. I think they want to see your content, be a little bit familiar with what your social media is, just to make sure that you're, you know, a legit person or whatever. Sounds like a good time. So this is exactly what I was talking about for any of you. I know SwitchPod, I was talking to you about this. So dates are coming soon, and there's also a YouTube channel. So it's kind of convenient that Tyven popped in because we were just talking about this last time. So yeah. It's almost like he was reading my mind, or maybe Richard Hughes told him to come over, one of the two. But you guys all know Richard. He's a regular in these streams and a sub of mine, so yeah. Okay, so I showed you guys the P-64. Now, here I'm going to show you another P-64 that you might not have really seen too much. These have just come on the market from what I know of, and it might be a small batch. So if you want one of these, you might want to pick it up. And this is a special P-64. So you're going to notice right now, They look pretty similar, right? Except for there's an orange-red stripe across the grip. Okay. For those of you that are, familiar with milsurps, you probably know what this is, but still. Now, what also is cool is we'll notice a distinct roll mark in the side of the slide. I don't even know how to pronounce that. I'm not even going to come close, right? How would you say that? Skolny, we'll just say, right? So this is marked in red, and what Skolny or whatever is actually translated in English to school. So this would be for recruits or people going through boot camp in Poland. This would be what they call a training gun. So they mark it in the red right away so that they can distinguish it from a quote-unquote firing gun. I'm cautious to say this isn't a real gun because it's actually still a real gun, and by legal ATF standards, this had to be shipped to my FFL. But it's basically a disabled gun. And what this was for is to give people proper handling skills, holster drawing, disassembling, dry firing. They could give this to a recruit, and quite frankly, he could sit inside of a classroom with another 100 recruits, and there's virtually, well, not virtually, there's literally no way they could hurt themselves with this. Unless, of course, they hit their neighbor in the head with it, right? So we've got the red here. That's a big indicator. Now, we're also going to notice, if you look at the chamber portion of the barrel here, this is the regular one. Now look at the school version or training version. You can see that they've cut a fairly large portion of the chamber out. So that's basically means the barrel's been demilled, right? We're also going to notice the magazine has the same red stripe. And that's just to make sure that when the teacher or drill instructor or whatever they call them there is going around, if you don't see red on it, it's not allowed in the room, right? So in this, when they're training with these, they would never even let one of these into the same room. And for those of you that are veterans of our military, I'm sure you know more than me about this, but from what I understand, we have training devices too that we use. Maybe not with the red stripe necessarily, but I've seen Romania do this with their Mosins before. And the Romanian Mosins say instructee on the side. Now I'm going to take this apart in a second and show you guys a few more things, but I'm going to throw this out there. This might sound stupid to a lot of you because it's a non-firing gun, but since the receiver, which is legally the firearm in America, is still completely functional, they did nothing to disable the lower. And they actually really didn't do anything to the slide. The only demilling they did is to the barrel and kind of the slide. I'll show you that in 1 second. This is still a firearm by legal definition, because you can take the slide off of, say, this gun and unpin the barrel from this gun, pin it into this, and it'd be shootable again. But with all that said, it's basically just a conversation piece and a collectible. But they have these for $139, and as of last night, they were still free shipping from centerfiresystems.com. So if you want a neat piece of history for 140 bucks, I think it's nice to have with the collection. You know, if you're displaying your Polish pistols, they look good next to each other. And it's not just the red paint. This is not an Electro pen, as you guys can probably see in the picture here. This is literally factually roll marked in, so it definitely has the unique marking on it. And I'll tell you guys a quick story about, speaking of buying stuff cheap. Romania had their training Mosins, their M44s. And what they did is they took like a stencil and basically spray painted on the stock instructee, which I believe if you translate that would mean like instructional, right? All right, see you later, Tevin. Yeah, I'm going to be talking to Richard and then you about that Creators Summit, because me being in Michigan, I think that's something I'd like to do. So I'll be in touch with you. But thanks for stopping by, man. So anyways, Romania with their M44, they came out with an instructee, right? And they literally wrote in spray paint instructee, and then they put the red band around it, painted some red on the barrel. Oh, I didn't even show you guys this. There's red on the slide here. And I remember when those came into the country a few years ago, it was kind of like this. A lot of people kind of said, like, whatever, you know, like that's kind of stupid, like, you know. And they were going for cheap. I mean, way cheaper than the rest. And this isn't like 20 years ago when Mosins were 80 bucks. This was when like a Mosin carbine was worth like a couple $100, $225 or so at that time. And they were selling the instructee Romanian Mosins for like 140 or 50 bucks, something like this. I saw one on Gunbroker clear in the last couple months for like 800, 850, somewhere in there. So again, I keep saying this, and again, I don't work for Centerfire. I'm not sponsored. I could care less. I'm just giving you guys a heads up that the way it usually works in the market with milsurps or even modern military clone guns, the one that nobody liked and they thought was stupid and why would anybody want that, and they didn't really make many of them, because I assure you, there's probably like one of these for every 1,000 of these made, right? So not many were made. When they were available, which they are right now, nobody wants it. Those always end up being the ones somehow that are worth the most. Stupid as it sounds. So just figured I'd give you guys that story. And I'm not even telling you that you want this. Most of you probably think this is completely retarded, but I'm just letting you know, these are uncommon. They're really cheap right now. Doesn't mean that if you decided you wanted one in 5 years that you wouldn't pay 3, 4, 5 times as much for it, because somebody out there is going to want it, and it's actually kind of rare. So this one I have no problem taking apart. So if anyone from YouTube's watching, this is a non-firing gun. I think it's fine by YouTube's policy anyways, because it's not considered an assault weapon. So basically what you do with these, just like this is where it has some Makarov features to it. So to disassemble this, if you look, there's no takedown pin or takedown mechanism anywhere, right? It's all just like slab side. So what do you do, right? Well, it's funny because years ago, first time someone handed me a Makarov, I literally sat there for 2 or 3 minutes and I'm like, what do you do? What do you do? And then I looked and I'm like, wait a minute. There's a pin here and a hinge portion in the trigger guard. That might mean something, right? Which it does. So you can pull down on the trigger guard of this gun. It's hard to do on camera. There we go. Pull it down and just cock it off to the side. So I'm pulling it all the way out. See how that looks? This little nub that's protruding through is actually what's holding the slide in. So now that that's relieved, I'm going to pull back and then up at the same time, and then I'm going to keep tension on it, because if not, this will shoot across the room. I'm going to ease it forward. And that's actually your basic / full field strip, really. It's like that easy. That's like all there is to this gun. So there's the slide. And I was telling you guys earlier that they kind of did a little something to the slide, but I think you could restore this if you were so inclined. And by the way, it's perfectly legal to restore this if you wanted to, because you're purchasing this as a firearm. This has to be shipped to an FFL. So as far as the ATF and everyone's concerned, this gun and this gun have the same legal classification, right? What you'll notice is, and my camera probably won't pick it up, it actually kind of is a little bit there. Basically what they did is it still has a firing pin and spring in there. I think they just nipped the end of the firing pin off, and then they just kind of braze welded over the firing pin hole in the firing pin channel. So there's no firing pin hole. So that's why this gun, as it sits, is impossible to shoot, because you could technically chamber around in here, gotcha, and then blow the slide off or hurt yourself if you shot this gun with a drilled out chamber. But you can't, because the firing pin itself, like the tip of it's been cut off and it's welded. The whole face of the firing pin channel here has been welded shut, where, again, that's why it's impossible to detonate around. So yeah, in the barrel, this is a fixed barrel, which is typical, like think PPK, think all your Makarovs, even High Point, in all honesty, if you want to throw that analogy out there. And it's just got a recoil spring, tight friction fit that fits over the barrel. If you're ever taking one of these apart, you'll notice this end's a little bigger than this end. Put the small end towards the rear of the gun and leave the big end at the muzzle. And that's kind of it. I mean, cleaning, you just get in there with your toothbrush and whatnot, but that's basically all there is to it, guys. Pretty simple design. There's a screw here with a nut, and if you ever take your grips off, make sure you keep a finger on this little nut right here, because that nut is not retained. It'll fall on the ground. Very difficult to find. And just take my word for that. So yeah. So yeah, this is a cool little piece, You could call this an instructional model, training model, student. Yeah. P-64. This one was made in 1970. So these guns I'm showing you are all kind of in the same era, right? Same thing. So if I let my trigger guard go back up, you're going to see this little nub protrudes in there. Okay. And that's actually going to lock and interface with the slide. So if I want to put this slide back on, I need to make sure this is still down. It's basically down, and then you slightly move it off to the side, and it just kind of rests there. Now, these can be a pain in the butt. If you're not watching yourself and you bump this or jar the weapon real hard, this can fall back up there, and then you got to kind of start over. But you're basically just going to let the spring meet the front of the slide where there's a little recess. You're going to come in on an upward angle so the barrel starts to come through. You're going to kind of stay up until you feel it clear the back. Okay? And it just goes right on. And then now to retain it, I'm just going to bump that, and the trigger guard goes right back in. Function test it just to make sure. Now, here's the crazy part about these guns. If you guys have ever fired one, right? And so right now, since I just wrecked the slide, this is going to be in what's called single action, right? I've used the slide to do the first action of and compress that spring. Now, this is an excellent, excellent, excellent single action pull. So there's a little bit of take up here with like 0 pounds of weight. So that's nice. Just a little take up and then very short and crisp. I mean, this is a nice, nice, nice trigger, guys. Like literally, like that's why I was kind of comparing this gun to like some of the expensive 1911s, right? Fit and finish, every bit as good. And then even the trigger. This one right here even has a better trigger. This student model, I have a feeling, has been kind of like, you know, well used for a long time. Oh, there goes the magazine. That's the other pain in the butt about these things, guys. Okay, so it's last round hold open, but there's no release. There's no slide release anywhere on here. So to release the slide, you either need to move the mag out or move it down a little bit, right? And then rack the slide. So that's kind of a pain in the butt. If you're familiar with like the Ruger LCP or the Kel-Tec P-380, those are the same type of thing, no slide release. But whatever. The trigger on this though is not like a Kel-Tec or a Ruger. So same thing, just a little bit of take up. You hit an abrupt wall right here, and then just instant. I mean, short, crisp, sweet. The reset, not really what you quite expect on a modern gun. It's not tactile or audible at all. You just kind of feel it and then take up that slop again. So let me see if I can show you guys the trigger reset. See, you literally can't hear it. But as you guys know, when you're really shooting in real life, now when you're dry firing, you notice everything. You don't really care about how tactile the reset is, at least not me anyways. I just care about how, how responsive the trigger is. And trust me, this trigger is so good in single action, you're not going to even notice or care about the reset. I mean, it's just bang, bang, bang. Now, speaking of shooting this gun, though, even though it's all steel and it's very heavy, it's just so small. And the 9x18, it's no slouch round. I mean, it's significantly more powerful than a 380. This gun kicks you pretty good. I mean, it's a handful. I can't quite say it's the funnest gun to shoot as far as recoil goes, but it does have a great trigger, right? So yeah, this training model, and I have a few of these. I have quite a bit of experience with these and bought a little stack of them because I knew at like 170 or even 199, that's kind of too good to be true. So I bought up a few. They all have excellent trigger pulls. This little student model here, I mean, it's still great by Milsurp standards, but just not quite as good. It's got a little grit in there. But with all due respect, look at what this gun is and how many thousands of times it's probably been dry fired, right? So, yeah. Let's see here, guys. I'm going to show you a couple more features real quick on this gun, because then the next one I'm showing you after this kind of has a lot in common with it. Okay, Albert just helped you guys out. There you go. Price $139.99. Polish Radom P-64, 9x18 Makarov. Training pistol, Skolina, however you school pistol basically, and he gave you the part number. So just copy and paste that if you're familiar with these, or if you're interested in these, rather, I should say. I mean, of course you're all familiar. I meant to say interested. Centerfiresystems.com is the only company I know of that got these. And I could be dead wrong, guys. You could see these for sale for the next 5 years, but yeah, I doubt it. The other interesting thing about these too is you can manually cock the hammer back. It's got kind of a small little bobbed hammer to put in a single action. And you have to have a hold on this thing. I mean, this mainspring here is like stiff. Like you really have to grab onto that little bobbed hammer, right? Which is cool though. I'm glad it has a smart, short hammer, because if not, you could find yourself getting a little hammer bite. But it's just bobbed enough where you don't. So right now we're in what's called single action. That's that extremely light, crisp trigger pull. Here's your safety, which also is a little stiff here, guys. Serves as a decocker. So that's pretty cool. You can decock on a chambered round. Now, I wouldn't recommend that on any milsurp unless you're pointing the gun in a safe direction, as you should with all guns, but especially milsurps. Never completely trust a milsurp decocker. But yeah, decocker, then you can put the gun back. This is stiff again. This gun has very little use. Now we're hot again. And then we get the dreaded P-64 double action trigger pull. This trigger pulls so much, it doesn't even make any sense for me to go get my trigger gauge, guys, because even the Wheeler milsurp trigger gauge, which goes up to higher poundage, still won't even read this gun. This is somewhere in the range. And I mean, I think these have been measured in the high 20s of pounds up into the 30-pound range. Some people even reported these being up near 40-pound trigger pulls. But let's just say on average, you're literally dealing with like a 25 to 30-pound double action trigger pull. I mean, like you really have to pull. So obviously, this isn't the way you'd prefer to shoot this gun. However, you can get that first round popped off and get through that, trigger pull. Your follow-up rounds are just going to be butter. I mean, I'm talking butter, especially after you pull that double action back. Then all of a sudden the single action feels like it's 1 pound, right? Now, why would they do this? Why would you put such a hard, basically high tension spring, high pounded spring in a little pocket gun like this, you may ask? Well, some of it could be to do with no accidental discharges or negligent discharges. That's part of it. However, the real reason why this has such a horrendous... Man, my coat's caught up on the chair again, guys. Anyways, the real reason why this has such a brutal double action trigger pull is actually because of this critter right here. Now, with this being an open bolt machine pistol, on an open bolt, you need to have very hard primers. That's how these guns are made to run. So they needed to have a hard primer. And if you guys are familiar with that old surplus submachine gun ammo that's been out over the years, it always has really hard primers. Even the current stuff that you can buy from like SG Ammo and Centerfire, the Czech 7.62x25, the Yugo 7.62x25, they specify right in their hard primers. Now these are for machine pistols, open bolt design guns, right? So because this gun was coming on the scene around the same time this gun was, they didn't want to make 2 different lots of ammo. So what they did is they made all their 9x18 at that time in Poland to be the hard primer variety, suitable for this machine pistol. So to use the same ammo in here, they needed an extremely hard hammer strike. And the only way they were able to get that, maybe still today that's the only way to do it, but at least at this time, the only way they were able to do that was by putting in a brutally tough and strong spring. But again, it's hard to cock it, but when you overcome that spring by cocking it, the single action's not affected at all, not whatsoever. All right. So yeah, a couple things of this gun that are kind of cool. This shoots, this gun only holds 6 rounds. And these were mainly used for, these are basically officers' pistols is what they really were for. These were for officers that really didn't need to shoot their gun a lot, let's face it, but wanted to have a sidearm for obvious reasons too. These were not necessarily, you know, a frontline infantry pistol. But I'll show you the one that came out a little before this but was more widely issued. And that would be the Poland's TT-33, sometimes called Model 48 or WZ-48. This is made in the same Circle 11 factory at Radom. Here they marked them on the top of the slides. This particular example is made in 1952. Now these started off a little bit before the P-64. And these, I believe, started in production in Poland at the Circle 11 plant in 1947 and continued all the way up until, I want to say like around maybe late 50s, maybe even into the 60s. I might be off on that. But I do remember they started them in 1947. And this being a very, very close clone to the Russian TT-33, otherwise known as the Tokarev pistol. And what's cool about these is most of the Combat countries made these, right? And a lot of them used the post-war Tokarev type serrations, right? Which I didn't bring any other countries' Tokarevs with me today, sorry guys. But humor me, after World War II, Russia went on their Tokarevs to slide serrations, something that looks a lot like the serrations on this P-64, right? And that's what most of the other countries did. Now Poland, they chose to keep the original wider serrations that are basically identical or very similar to a World War II era or before Russian TT-33. Same thing with these guns, guys. Very nice fit and finish. Not quite as polished as the P-64, but still pretty darn nice and still a nice bluing on them. You know, this shoots obviously what we call the Tokarev round nowadays, the 7.62 by 25. It's basically a small little bottleneck round, high pressure, high speed, 30 caliber projectile, but it starts off with basically a 9mm parent case, neck down to a 30 cal. So as you guys know that are into ammo, whenever you neck a cartridge down, that tends to boost the pressure and tends to, you know, have increased speed. These, as you guys probably already know, are single action only. This gun's clear. This does have a slide release right here. So in that case, we can pull the hammer or the slide back. Now, I don't know if you can or not, but on these older kind of guns like this, I don't usually do like the tactical reload where I just slam the slide down. What I'll usually do is kind of take a little pressure off, push that release down. I use this more as a slide stop than I do a release, right? Maybe it's okay to do it. I've just found some of these parts when they get to be 60, 70 years old, it's not really the best thing to be slamming releases and stuff. You know what I mean? Now let's see what we got going on here. Ryan Fixer stopped in. How's it going, man? Good to see you too. Mr. FNH, what's up, man? Cool Gad, he says. You'll have to go back, FNH, because we've been talking about the P-64 before this, but right now we're on to the TT-33 Tokarev. Circle 11, 1952 production on this one. Yeah, this is a nice gun, really. All matching numbers. The only thing that sucks about these Tokarevs is, for import reasons, if they were imported after 68, they had to have a safety. So this has the stupid safety in here. They basically drilled a hole, put the safety in. This was all done for import reasons. These guns did not have a safety when they were actually used in Poland. The safety is basically a half cock. So you have full cocked, firing position, and then literally just this little notch right here. That's considered the half cock. That's the actual safety for this gun. But the main safety for most militaries in the Combat era anyways was actually this right here and this right here. Use your brain, keep your finger right off of the bang switch, and that was pretty much mainly the safety. Other than that, just this little half cock notch for the hammer. Now these are basically, a lot of people say a Browning inspired design. Some people say 1911. Yeah, 1911-ish. But really, I think it'd be more proper to compare this to the 1903. So For those of you pistol historians, maybe you'll agree with me. It has a lot more inspiration from a 1903, really, but also a little 1911-ish inspiration in here, for sure. Now, this trigger is not nearly as good as the P-64. I mean, the P-64, just the feel of the trigger and everything, nice modern feel. See how wide the actual part your finger touches is? Now this, very narrow. It has little serrations in it, which are actually not proper in Poland, but they had to add the serrations to it because it had an import point system that was developed in 1968 under the Gun Control Act. But they put little serrations in here. That way they can legally call it a target trigger and give it another point. That's a topic for another stream, guys. But let's just say there's a point system, and they have to have certain features to gain points. And if they can't get enough points, they're not allowed in the country after 1968. So, yeah. We basically, you know, we have to deal with bastardized versions of all these guns, more or less. Some more than others, but again, this gun's still pretty unmolested. You can still get the same experience, really, as a real one. The trigger on this, a little take-up, a little stiffer take-up. This particular one has a little bit of a trigger pull to it. I mean, this is probably more like the 9-pound range. Now, I found Tokarevs. I'm kind of into the Tokarevs, guys, so I've had quite a few. But I found Tokarevs can go from hair trigger all the way up to brutal trigger and everywhere in between. Depends on the country of origin, the particular model. This one has very low round count, I can tell. And I found the triggers are a little gritty and rough on these right away. And then they kind of smooth out over hundreds of rounds. And yes, Zeke makes a good point there. Billboard roll mark. Here's the thing, guys. We always talk about the good old days with imports, which most of the time that's the case. But I will say one cool thing about modern imports. Back in the day, it was kind of assumed, or maybe it was ATF policy. See, ATF doesn't have real transparent policies on this stuff, guys. Basically, you're always like at the whim of the ATF, and just because you've been importing something a certain way for years, they might reject it the next time. There's all these inconsistencies and confusion. So it used to be kind of assumed, or people just did it, that you had to put this big billboard right on the side of the gun for your import mark, just to make sure you don't get the ATF mad. Well, so you'll see this big roll mark on guns that were imported kind of, I don't want to say a long time ago, but a few years back. Now, it's funny because if you go back in the day, then they used to do these teeny, like size 2, excuse me, roll mark fonts that were like under the barrel. And like in some cases, they'd even roll mark cleaning rods and everything, guys. So basically, if you go to really old mill SERPs, the import marks were perfect. Then in the middle, they kind of went to these. And now recently again, they're going back to this kind of stuff. Like right under there. And I think they're sold out now, but recently Classic had a bunch of M57 Yugo Tokarev types that actually had the import roll mark underneath the trigger guard. Now that's awesome. But yeah, it has a safety for import. They kind of had to alter the grip. But there's hope. What you can do, and a lot of people have known to do this over the years. Here's another Polish rig. This is the full rig, so you guys can see what this looks like. Genuine leather holster. There's your cleaning rod. Has a slot for a spare magazine, which I have filled right now. Now here's another Polish TT-33, imported under the name TTC. Basically the same gun, right? Until you come over to this side. On this one, the safety was removed, and the previous owner had this done by a gunsmith. This is the way I bought it, guys. Still the same stupid billboard mark, which with Polish guns, there's not much we can do about this, guys. They only came in for a few years. Haven't seen any imported since. I don't know if we're ever going to get Polish Tokarevs with the mark under here. So this is probably the best we can get. But if you'll notice where the safety used to be here, it's been removed, and a plug was custom cut. It's not a completely round dowel. See how it's got kind of a keyhole shape? Was cut and fitted. I think they did a good job. And then they bought original unmolested grips. Because as you notice with this stupid safety, they actually had to cut out a notch in the grip. And you'll see these on Russians and all kinds of different countries of origin. It's just a 1968 Gun Control Act thing. I mean, there's very, very few of these that came in before 68, vet bringbacks, a couple things like that, but those are very valuable and very, very hard to get. Now, I want to show you guys something with the trigger pull. Remember, this is single action only, okay? Think 1911. I can pull the trigger all day, nothing's going to happen. So I preload the main spring, or trigger spring in this case, hammer spring rather, and then I can pull the trigger. And this has got a decently tough trigger. It's hard for you guys to tell, but I can just feel it. Now this one, on the other hand, this one's had a little polishing done to the trigger. This one is just perfect. So all of a sudden on this gun, you can start thinking like nice 1911 trigger again. I mean, really, there's not much more you want on a trigger than this. Besides the fact of the shape of the trigger itself is a little goofy. But once you get rid of that initial kind of jiggly take-up, once you get that slop out of there, I mean, it's just nice, really nice. Nice and positive. It's like you know when it's going to go off because you can feel that wall, but you're kind of surprised when it breaks, which is what I like on a trigger. I like to know when I've hit that wall, and I like to have control right to the last second, but then I want to be surprised as I'm pulling that it actually went off. To me, that's kind of the perfect, you know, combination of a trigger for me, for my purposes. But yeah, this one's also coincidentally 1952. Circle 11. In 1952, that's going to be borderline, guys, and this is where I'm not an expert, but I think at 52 it may have still been FB Radom and hadn't quite gone to Luxnick yet. But either way, whether it was technically legally called Luxnick Radom or FB Radom, still same factory, Circle 11, been making guns for 100 years, right? Now, these guns aren't really that close in serial number, even though they're the same year. I'm looking here. The one has a PT prefix, and the other has a PC prefix. And they made a lot of these, so yeah. Anyways, yeah, these are pretty neat. The Polish TT-33, Model 48, WZ-48. You could call it all of that. I know they started making them in 1947 or started developing them, and I think it was officially adopted in 1948. Yeah, F&H brings up a good point. First times you see more thumbs than viewers. Well, I guess that means I'm well liked, right? I really love you guys, by the way, because look how small my sub count is, guys. I'm just a little over 100 subs, and I get a dozen people in my streams, which is awesome. That's like a pretty high viewer to sub ratio. So I don't care how high my subs are. What matters to me is I'm able to hang out with a dozen people with having such a small channel, right? And these kind of streams are cool too. Reed Hendricks and Patriot Nurse, you know, his wife, they got in and did a stream yesterday. And it was cool. I like those people. They were saying a lot of good stuff. But as an audience member, it wasn't even fun. I mean, you would literally like put in your comment, and it would already be off the page before you could even spell check your own comment. So there's like literally no chance people can respond to you because there was like 2,500 people in that stream. And when there's that many people, I just kind of sit back and just watch the stream, okay? Because when there's literally 4 figures, you know, participants, you just can't read anything. You can't interact. You can't follow. You just kind of watch it like a TV show. But it was a good stream. Other than that, I liked their stream. Like I said, I don't always agree with everything they say. You never can, and you guys don't agree with everything I say. But as a whole, I think they're both patriots, and I do like what they have. I do think they both have good channels, and it was just kind of cool to see them both get on there at the same time. Not that they need my shout out, but they did their first stream. Needs a My Little Pony roll mark. Indeed. That might be a good idea. I'm not going to put it on the one, though, that the safety's been removed on, because I want that one to look nice. I mean, don't get me wrong. My Little Pony roll mark looks nice, just it won't be original. Let's see here. The Tokarev is Soviet 1911. You could kind of say that. That was their take on it, inspired from. Again, I didn't really see anybody comment on that. I'm going to say more like a 1903. Mike J is in the house. What's up, Mike? I'm glad you're enjoying it. The original 357 SIG. Yeah, that's another way to look at it. Let's see here. Warsaw would rather see a grip safety. Yeah. Well, what I really like is what the M57 Yugos did on this last batch. The cool one that's roll marked underneath the trigger guard here. Yeah, those are awesome. Those they put in a little Glock dingus in the trigger to help as a safety. And you can either just shoot it as is, or you can go buy like a $6 replacement Yugo Tokarev trigger. These triggers come out super, super easy, guys. And then you could just put in a trigger, because those points and those import things, those only matter for bringing it into the country, right? Once they're here, we're allowed to change all these parts back over. And of course, since they're pistols, they're not affected by 922R. So even if you do believe in 922R, you don't have to worry about it with a pistol. So the best thing, I think, is those trigger dingus safeties. Oh, I almost forgot to put my ring back on. I take my ring off when I go out and salt because I've had it get stuck in my gloves before and had some pretty freaked out nights of like scouring parking lots looking for it. It's not good. All right, I'm going to show you guys one more here, and I'll be wrapping it up in a couple minutes. This, and I kind of showed you guys in the wrong order, this is the new iteration of the P-64. And this is what's called a P-83. Also made in the same famous Circle 11 plant, the Luxnick Radom factory. And this particular example was made in 1988. So production of these started in, late 83, early 84. And this was basically about as far as Poland went with the whole Comblock Makarov design. This is chambered in 9mm Makarov still. It has a heel magazine release, which is a lot easier to use. See, if you look at this one, you can push down with your thumb while grabbing the mag with your finger, and it just comes right out. I forgot to show you guys this. This is one of the brutal things about the P-64. The mag release is terrible. I mean, it's way recessed under there. You can't really, like, do it at the same time. You can't really get your thumb in there, right? So I found that I literally have to, like, get in here first and, like, tip the gun kind of upside down, pull back, and it's under a lot of pressure, and then just kind of take my other hand. I mean, it's hard to do with one hand, is my point. This is one downside to this P-64. Mag release is absolutely terrible. And I don't even mind a heel release. Just this one, yeah, this is a little bit ridiculous. This one, though, isn't bad at all. I mean, it's just a natural motion to push down. There's a nice serrations here on this spring-loaded catch. And it actually, you saw that, it literally shoots the mag out. So by 1984, 83, they were definitely subscribing to the drop-free mag theory. I mean, this thing's like, let me put it upside down. See that? So this actually ejects like a modern pistol. So for those of you that like the more, drop-free design, this pistol might be for you, Another thing they improved on that's kind of cool is they do actually have a slide release now. The gun's a little bigger. It gives you a lot more of a beaver tail on the back, if you will. And the grips, they got a lot more texture to them, This gun definitely starts to have a lot more modern feel. Like, if you're holding this gun, it almost feels similar to something that you might buy that's made today type of deal. Still a blue gun. Still has a nice level of, fit and finish to it. However, on the P-83, as compared to the P-64, which is all milled, like down to everything, they started putting a lot of stampings on this gun. So we'll have a stamped trigger guard in this case, right? We have stampings on like your mag release. The trigger has a totally different feel. It's kind of a wider trigger. There's just a lot more stampings and a lot, this was a cheaper gun to make, basically. So they did a few things. They bumped the magazine capacity up by I believe 1 round. I think this is a 7 round. It's still a double single action. Does not have the same decocker though. I was just fooling around with that guy. So when the gun's on safe, it basically doesn't allow, you can still move the trigger a little bit, but it doesn't allow the hammer to go all the way back, right? And it also prevents you from physically cocking the hammer. When you put the gun on fire, it's now either double action, which is much more manageable. Still not good, but instead of being 25, 30 pounds like this on average, we're probably at about a nice, I don't know, I'm going to say more like 15 pounds-ish. So it's still not a hair trigger, but a nice 15 pound. It's pretty smooth though. Nice and steady. I'm trying to do it in slow motion so you can watch that hammer. Single action. Now, if you notice, this with having a much more abrupt beaver tail, if you will. Not quite a beaver tail, but you know what I'm saying. Much more abrupt than the P-64. Instead of having a bobbed hammer, we have more of a full spur style hammer here, where you can really get your finger in there. I mean, it's a nice, you get a really nice purchase with thumb on this, right? I mean, you can just grab a hold of it like it's nothing. Single action pull. There's basically very little take up, just a teeny bit. See that there? It's a short pull, and it's quite nice, but not nearly as nice of a single action pull as this P-64. So I don't know. There's a little give and take with these guns. If I had to pick in a way, if you're just gonna sit and like hold this and look at it and kind of like mess with it on the table, this gun's nicer. And I don't think there's any debate that this is like a, I guess I could say high quality machine, right? All the milled parts, they're just impeccable, high polishing. But when it comes down to it, though, this gun is the one you're actually going to want to shoot. I mean, it's just so much more comfortable in your hands. The grip is just really nice. The trigger pull, like I said, in double action is about half. Although the single action isn't quite as good, it's just the gun handles the recoil so much better. And I know this sounds stupid. You guys are thinking, well, a little 9mm Makarov. For those of you that shot one, see if you agree or not. I mean, these things are flippy. I mean, they want to, unless you got a nice hold of this thing, it wants to, you know, kind of take off on you. I can see one flying out of your hand if you were shooting it one-handed with wet hands. The grip is not very aggressive, very smooth, in fact, in most of the areas. And it's a really small gun. And I think a lot of people mistake the 9mm Makarov for being like a little weak, anemic round. It's actually not. And I know they may make some weaker current offering loadings, but I'll tell you what, if you're shooting the same submachine gun ammo that was designed for the PM-63 in one of these, I mean, this thing's like literally hotter than a firecracker. If you consider all, you know, without recoil, if you consider everything. Let's see what we're going on here now. Yeah, like Bastard said, sheet metal pistol. I mean, it's not all sheet metal, but pretty close. Even the frame itself, I forgot to mention that. The frame itself here is just bent sheet metal, which is fine. We're AK guys, right? So all of us are all familiar with sheet metal pistols. Nothing wrong with those. But yeah, this gun's kind of neat. Luxnick Radom P-83. These were available a while ago, a few years back. I haven't really seen any lately, but these were always cost a little more than these for some reason. Where these definitely dipped below $200 recently. These were always around $250 to $280, even $300 depending. So I think I scored this for around $250, $260 a few years back. But yeah, the Polish P-83, guys. Hopefully you guys liked it. Again, not rare like is invaluable. They're just kind of uncommon, and you don't really see people showing them too much. So it's not like bragging rights rare. It's just a little uncommon in this country, you know? Like, as in you don't see it every day. I don't even know what it's worth. I paid about $260 for it. It might be worth a little more than I paid, but I couldn't imagine it being worth a whole lot more. I mean, it's not a terribly old gun. But yeah, any of you guys have any familiarity with those old submachine gun Makarov rounds? Especially in a small pistol like this, like, I don't know, you guys might just call me a wuss, but they're pretty hot little package, I'll tell you guys that. Now this gun, actually, here's what's interesting. They had pretty much used up all the SMG and were retiring and selling these P-64s off and the PM-63s off to other countries or putting them in the warehouse, right? These have a much, much, much softer firing, you know, hammer spring. So these actually can have some reliability issues if you try to shoot that hard primer stuff. These had a much more modern type of ammo that they were issued with, just so you know. Poland did evolve their ammo and change it over the years. FNH says 15 pounds is light and smooth. Well, look at the bubble we're talking in. I mean, obviously I'm not, you know, going to bring out a Dan Koonin or something, you know, and in the realm of milsurps, okay? In the realm of milsurps made in the Cold War, light and smooth 15 pounds is, you guys know what I'm saying, right? There is a such thing as light and smooth 15-pound double action in the milsurp world, especially in Warsaw Pact countries in the 1950s and 60s. Even in the 80s, as far as that goes. Totally different manual of arms and way of thinking over there. FNH used to have a Bulgarian Makarov in 9x18. Now, that's actually a true Makarov. None of these are really Makarovs, guys, and I know they're not. I'm just saying we can call them Makarovs tonight. That's fine with me. I'm not that politically correct. To me, if you know how to name a gun, you might be a good, you know, teacher, but it doesn't really impress me much other than that. So, yeah, what FNH used to have is actually a true Makarov. And China made true Makarovs, obviously Russia, Bulgaria, East Germany. Those are the countries I can think of right now that made an actual Makarov. Let's see here, guys. A lot of stuff going on in Illinois, guys. I think since Zeke's in Illinois, it'd be nice if Zeke got on and maybe did a stream here soon. Or maybe he has time in. I don't want to speak for him because I know tomorrow he's doing the Polish AKs. That's the main event. I don't know if he has time after. Or I'm hoping maybe you guys can get with Zeke on that. But I will make everyone aware of this, though, that Illinois is facing a lot of struggles right now, guys. So just because we don't all live in Illinois, let's pray for those guys and see if we can do anything to help, you know. So I'm not dodging the Illinois issue, guys. I just thought that since Zeke lives in Illinois, it makes sense for 100 reasons for Zeke to kind of do more of a stream on that than me, right? Yeah, depending on the night, Mateo said never enough ammo stream can be that way too. I know. And then they're cool streams. That's not the problem. It's just hard to interact because there's so many people in there. The host can't read it. You can't even read your fellow buddies. You guys know exactly what I mean. It's not a put down to anyone. It's just the reality. So I was only saying that to say that I'm glad that I'm not a famous YouTuber because we can just all sit and hang out and you know what I mean. I can actually go through and read you guys' stuff. Any of these been painted? They may have painted some of them afterwards, but for the most part, all the P-83s and P-64s I've seen have all had the nice bluing. And I'm going to give you guys, I'm going to get off here in 2 minutes because Applebee's is calling me, guys. But I'm going to give you a teaser, and this is going to be a segue to Zeke's stream tomorrow, guys. So Zeke's doing the, hold on. Zeke's going to be talking about the Polish AKs. And I'm not really going to talk about the Polish AK really right now. It's just going to show you guys a little teaser to get you excited for the Zeke shoot stream tomorrow night. Here's a barreled Circle 11. Now this one here is a kit. I didn't bring the whole kit in the room. The rest of it's back there. This is an AKMS. Same thing, Circle 11, Luxnick Radom, 1973. Now this is a nice kit, guys. This kit here is like literally like unissued. Now, of course, even though they're unissued, they still got kind of thrown around. There's a few nicks and scratches. I mean, this is obviously just from demilling, the scratches here. But if you look, I mean, I'll show you the bolt in a second. You guys will know what I mean. This is pre-populated by Arms of America with one of the now FB Radom cold hammer forged and chrome line barrels. I don't necessarily think the Polish barrels are the only ones to buy, guys. I like the Romanian ones that they're bringing to the country now. Even some of the U.S. stuff's fine too. AK Builder sells a lot of nice U.S. barrels, and I think these too. But if it's a Polish kit, which this is, to me it has to have the FB Radom Polish barrel. So in this case, this is the only barrel I'd be happy with in my Polish AK build, right? Yeah, you can see that nice shiny chrome lining in there. Look how pretty it is. Not as pretty as My Little Pony, but still pretty. Now, this was from a time period. I was going to show you guys this real quick. And on another stream, I'll show you guys an older kit that I have of a Polish where they were still gluing everything and using the hardwood furniture. Well, in this era with the AKs anyways, they were starting to paint everything. So there you can see the black paint, just a black matte, you know, military type paint. And as you guys know with these painted AKs, they scratch. So this shows you how new this gun really was before it was cut up. Just how good the paint looks. Look at the handguard. No nicks, nothing. And then here's the telltale sign. After you guys see this, you'll literally be almost as convinced as me that this gun's basically unfired, or I'm going to say unfired and not even test fired. Look at that. Like, I know you can clean the dome of a gas piston. My camera's just not quite good enough, guys, but you can't really fake this. There's no amount of cleaning you can do to ever get a gas piston to come back to exactly this look. Because what happens is you can still see, like, you can see the little, like, rainbow color still, right? From the heat treating. Once you've gotten this coked up with carbon and you clean it good enough to get all that off, it never quite has that same shiny luster again. And here's the other telltale sign. As you all know, when this goes through the gas tube, I mean, it's going to take like a couple shots and you're going to be missing paint because this is all paint on here, not bluing. You can see a little chip of paint here. That might have been from assembly, or maybe it was racked back like once. But you guys know the deal, right? You've been around this long enough. You can't really fake this. This gun's literally like brand new. And these, last time I checked, are still available from Arms of America. So I'm not showing you guys some kind of like unicorn here. I think that you can get these today right now over at Arms of America. You can get the fully headspace just like I bought this with now this has a nick in the paint here, but I think that's more from handling when they, you know, stack the rifles up for import. But look at this bolt, guys. Zero paint missing off of the bolt stem. I mean, if you look at the engagement lugs on the bolt, not even any paint missing off of the locking lugs. And then if you look at the bolt face, let's see if we can zoom in on that. There we go. Yeah. So I'm actually just throwing this out there, guys. Again, non-paid plug. I wish someone would pay me all the plugs I give, but Arms of America, right now, this kit can be purchased. AKMS kit. And they even specify in there, excellent or unissued condition. So yeah, that's just a little eye candy teaser on a Polish AK for you guys to get kind of excited about the Extreme tomorrow night, guys. Okay, let's see what we got here, guys. CZ82s are 200 bucks. I assume that's the shooter grade, but still. Now, CZ82s, they painted those guns, so a lot of those have a lot of finish missing, but still great shooters. And some even call the CZ82 a Makarov, which I think is a little bit of a stretch, but you can call that a Makarov too if you want. The CZ82 shoots a 9x18, just like these other guns. Road Scholar loves the Polish AKs. Yeah, me too. And really all the Polish guns in general. Like, it's easy to get into Polish guns just because when you have one in your hands, it just feels like quality, and there's just something about them. They're really nice. Now, Russian AKs are cool because it's the whole, like, Russian thing, right? Like, I don't have to say anything more. But there's no debate that Poland, with their AKs, have much higher degree of fit and finish than a Russian. And I don't even think there's any debate. But with that said, I'm not telling you which one to like more. The Russian is still probably the coolest one, right? Just because it's from Russia. And Kalashnikov himself was involved in making them. No, Mateo, you're not allowed to pull a FUD on the Illinois problem. And that's not what I'm doing either. I'm just literally saying, here's the thing, guys. If I lived in Michigan and Zeke lived in Wyoming, well, one of us has got to do it. But the fact that Zeke lives in Illinois, well, obviously, I'd like to see Zeke, talk about all this crap in Illinois. Let's see what we got, guys, here. I'm kind of... Yeah, Warsaw Patriots said, funny how that happens when they're basing their design off the PPK. This is probably more PPK than Makarov, to be honest. But it's just a 9x18, so. Polish Rifle Day. Here's the thing, guys. I am going to do a Polish Rifle Day here soon. The reason I didn't bring the PPS 43s in, because I have a few of those in both folding stock configuration and then the welded PPS 43C. Let's see, I got a Mosin. I've got some other Polish stuff. Tantal. I just thought today I'd kind of do the pistols because Zeke's going to talk about the AKs. And after he talks about the AKs, then I can come back and do another stream showing more with the Polish rifles. So the PPS 43 is kind of in the middle between a rifle and the PM-63, but I thought I'd just kind of hold that over for Rifle Day. And plus, I'm getting off in the next 2 minutes here, guys, just because I'm starving. And last night I was going out to Salt, and then the snow kept coming and coming and coming. And it was going to be a ½ an inch of snow originally or less, like a dusting to a ½ an inch. It started and stopped like 4 separate times, guys, where I'd be halfway done, and the weather wouldn't be calling for anything, nothing on the radar. And then a new lake effect storm would blow up. And yeah, by the time it was said and done, I was up from yesterday until 10 o'clock this morning. And then I slept half the day away, and I'm still kind of out of it. So I'm taking a quick peek at the chat here. Star BMs are 149. I think they have different grades of those, but that's another good point F&H brings up. Albert, yep, CZ82, 199. Check those out. There's that so-called CZ83 also. That one's cool. It's chambered in the 380. But just so you know, those are more of like a commercial export gun. Those aren't really military. So if you're more of a military provenance type collector, the CZ83 might not quite do it for you. But the CZ82, that's a legit, police and milcert gun. Same thing, though. If you want one of them BM9s, buy it up now while you still can. Because there's no way those are going to be only $200 or $150 or whatever forever. That's not going to be possible. We know that. Let's see here. What was Warsaw Patriot saying? I use Neverdol polish cleaning automotive swabs to clean the AK bolt carrier and piston head and all the carbon falls off. You can do that. But you guys know what I mean, though, right? Like, you can't fake this. This gun's, like, unissued. That's my whole point. And I'm not showing you this to brag about it. I'm just showing you guys this because I was, like, stoked when I opened this up. And you can get these right now today, like, literally right now from Arms of America. So, kind of cool, man. Kind of a cool time we're in right now with some of these nice kits. And it's up to you guys. I'm going to do my own build. I don't have problems with populating a barrel, but by the time you factor in the price of that Polish Radom barrel, which is the only barrel I want on a Polish build, they're not charging you much more just to populate your barrel. I think it's only, by the time you add the base kit and then the barrel to it, I think I was only paying like $40 extra to have them populate it. And I thought, I've got so many projects, why not? I'll definitely pay $40 to save all that time, just because I have plenty of other projects to do. And, uh-oh. Zeke put in Taco Bell. Uh-oh. Zeke's not emoji spamming, is he now? Got Taco Bell on the way. Drive through at Taco Bell. Yep. Brastard's got a Polish PPS 43 kit, an extra Russian bullet barrel and recoil assembly, and the Polish parts are so much better made and perfectly polished. The Russian bolt's very raw. Perfect example. You'll find that through almost all the guns. Poland just knows how to make a very high quality firearm, fit and finish wise. Now, will the Russian stuff work? Of course it will. In the end, is one better than the other? Maybe not. But when you're just sitting here kind of, you know, looking at your guns and hanging out with them, the Polish ones are neat. By the way, PPS-43 C kits. Go to Center Fire for those, guys. Those have been around a long time. I get it, but eventually they're going to dry up. And what a great bargain. For right now, for 90 bucks, you can get a PPS-43 kit with 3 mags, 3 full-size 35-round mags for 89 bucks. And then they've got the PPS-43/52, which is the final rendition that has that little short wood buttstock, make a nice SBR project. Those are only 99 bucks and come with 3 mags. So those are something too that if you guys are in the milsurps and want a project for down the road, might be nice to grab one of those kits up for sub $100. Because if you notice, when we buy all these AK kits, they don't even come with a mag. And those PPS mags, they come with 3, or the PPS kits rather, 3 mags. Ooh, Dame Troll. Zeke's putting the flames out there. FNH agrees. It looks brand new. And Zeke confirmed what I just said, Boris. When you polish it, it pulls that rainbow effect off. So you guys will like these kits if you get one. And my hardwood blued stock one I have, that's not unissued, but it's just as nice. I'll have to show you guys that kit another day. All right, guys, last call here. Anything important, shout it out, because I'm literally wanting to make a run for Applebee's. You guys are cool and all, but, man, I'd rather hang out at Applebee's than with you guys at this point. So I'm starving. Let's see what we got here. Okay, Warsaw said when I'm meeting to check out the new video. I will do that. Last call for alcohol. Another Soviet M24. See, Warsaw, he's going to do what he wants, but I suggested, you know, he's into the games. Maybe Warsaw should do more of these gaming videos. That kind of seems like his niche. So I think he's doing some more. What's that game he plays? Grand Theft Auto, I believe it's called. He's got a helicopter, so. Let's see here. Make a run for the border. I had Taco Bell yesterday. No thanks. I'm wasting away. You guys can see I'm wasting away, right? I mean, there's not much left. All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'm going to head out of here. Hopefully you liked a few of the Polish guns. The little school model here, student model. Thought you might like that just because you've probably never seen one before. So, yeah. I look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow night in Zeke streaming. I'll be on after we get our Blizzard on Monday. I'll be on again sometime next week. So thanks for stopping by, guys. I appreciate it. And yeah, you guys be safe and have a good one. See ya.